Yo dudes, what's up? This is Planet Keith, I'm Keith, and today it's episode 23 of the weekly vlog thing. Yeah, Monday morning, Mrs. Planet left me. She did say she'd be back in a week. She went to visit an auntie in Hampshire, right down south, nearly in the Isle of Wight, and then to see an exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and then spend the weekend with our son, also in London. So that was me, left all on my own, and I really don't like it. Anyway, she decided to go on the coach rather than train, probably for financial reasons. So she needed to be at the coach station at 9:30, and she got it all worked out. And then she said, and you know, I was happy to take her, but she didn't want me to. And then she says, all right, I've cocked this up. Can you take me to the bus stop? So we had about 4 minutes to get to the, not a bus stop, the main little bus station in our village. And yeah, so we got there just in time to see it pulling out. So I had to chase the bus and all sorts of things, you know, a bin lorry got in the way, and that went a different way, and then something else got in the way, and then the people wanting to cross the road, which they're entitled to, and all kinds of stuff. Eventually I caught up with it, overtook it, and dropped her at the next bus stop, and went home to an empty house. Cue sad music. Tuesday. This didn't really happen on Tuesday, it happened the previous week, but I was so busy ranting about the bin men that I forgot to mention this story. ABBA have released 2 new singles after a pause of 40 years, and they are magnificent. I mean, I'm not a massive ABBA fan, and when they were at their prime, I was heavily into prog rock and punk rock, and you know, I would rather have had needles stuck in my eyes than admit that I slightly liked some ABBA tracks. However, I do, because they're just designed to make you like them, aren't they? And the new ones could have been terrible, but actually they're not. They're every bit as good as the best of what they did before. So they've released 2 singles, I Still Have Faith in You and Don't Shut Me Down, and there'll be a new album in November. So that's really exciting. On Wednesday, you've had a brief preview of the sad music, and I actually found that last week because I wanted to include it in a cooking video where I mentioned that Mrs. Keith Cooks, in fact, had gone away for a week. Cue sad music. So I had to research that quite a lot, and found out it's called Hearts and Flowers, and it's about 100 years old, and the recordings online that I've found sound like they've been made on wax cylinders that have been kind of half melted and then stuck in the fridge to solidify again, and then, you know, played with a blunt needle. They're pretty bad. So I thought, I just need the first bar of this because everybody recognises it. And when we rearranged all the upstairs rooms, we unearthed an electric keyboard that we've had for well over 10 years. But most of the point, what we hadn't had was the power supply for it. So we managed to find that as well. So it's now a usable thing. However, I can't play. I do know my way around a piano keyboard, but I can't play with any conviction, speed, grace, or, you know, technical accuracy. But I did figure out how to play the first bar of Hearts and Flowers, and here it is. Okay, Thursday. Last week I mentioned that Mrs. Planet had got a new laptop, and one of the first things she did when she'd set up the essential things was have a game of Solitaire and Free Cell and all of those. And oh my goodness, we both kind of got addicted to these games because they're addictive, to the point where we both deleted them, or Mrs. Planet deleted it from her old laptop. I still have it on mine, but never used it. But having seen her playing it, I just had to do the same. So I've wasted quite a lot of this week playing all 5 of the different Solitaire games. Duh, this is bad. Friday, nearly the weekend, and I've done almost nothing. And I haven't really planned for a long walk because I've been not happy with the quality of the video that I shoot with my phone when it's mounted on the selfie stick, because the selfie stick has a built-in wobble. So I'd found this gimbal, which I've had for 3 or 4 years and not really used much at all, but it's perfect for stabilising video as you're walking or running, as you can see in these clips. So I'm tootling down this little hill and I've got the phone on the selfie stick, so you'll see it's going to be a bit wobbly, very wobbly in fact. Okay, we're just coming to the River Aire at Newley Village. There's a weir here that was grade 2 listed, and it's very old actually, but last winter it was breached in a storm, so they've been rebuilding it. So I'm just going to have a look at what they've done. Don't know what's going on there. The breach is still open and there's a kind of concrete slipway, I suppose, but contractors have gone and that doesn't look finished to me. What do I know about river management? Nothing. Okay, now I've got the camera mounted on a gimbal. It's a magnificent thing. It can, it just uses a gyroscope to sense any change in orientation or rotation or whatever, and little motors on 3 axes to correct for that motion. So it's very clever. I'm going to try running a bit. I'm running. This is me running. Bloody hell. That image is rock solid. Amazing. Okay. That's enough of that nonsense. Saturday was September the 11th, the 20th anniversary of the World Trade Center attacks. So obviously there'd been a lot of stuff on telly about that in the week leading up to it, and I'd watched some of it, and it's just to relive that. I actually, when it happened, I was living in Dubai. We didn't really have a telly. I mean, we had a telly, but it wasn't connected to a satellite dish or anything. So you could just get snow that was, the kind of terrestrial signal from CNN, and it was very hard to make out the visuals. And so really, on watching those documentaries, that was actually the first time I'd seen the whole day, the way it all played out, the time sequence and actual footage of it, and it's devastating. I mean, wow. So to cheer myself up, I made some fondant potatoes and a second video for the week, so that was cool. On Sunday, confession, while I've been on my Todd, I've been able to watch things on telly that I know Mrs. Planet really wouldn't be interested in. Well, things like Clarkson's Farm. This is Jeremy Clarkson of Top Gear fame. He's, I wouldn't say he's actually my favourite person on the planet. He's got a farm, and he's had it for like 15 years, but just as the owner. Anyway, the tenant suddenly announced that he was quitting, and Clarkson was like, well, shall I get a new tenant? Or actually, I'm not that busy these days, so maybe I'll do it myself. So, he does a deal with Amazon, obviously, because you don't do anything without filming it. In episode 1, well, I almost gave up. It was just clownish. He needed a tractor, so he's still got his Top Gear petrol head on and insists on buying the biggest, fastest tractor available, and it's made by Maserati, would you believe? And everybody said that is way too big for your farm, and it's actually too big for your barn to park it in. And he just goes and buys it anyway, and the whole thing, He's just clunking around doing what he feels like doing and not taking any advice from anybody. But the actual star of the show is a kid called Caleb, who is 21, and he worked on the farm for 3 years previously, so he knows it inside out, and he's got no problem about telling Clarkson what an idiot he is. But he's also our Caleb has got a plan to find the haircut that best suits him. Every time he gets his haircut, which is like once a month, he goes for a different style, and it's quite funny because it corresponds with each episode, and you're sitting there, you're wondering what's Caleb's hairstyle going to be. Anyway, it was great, and it could have been very, very sad. I mean, it was quite sad because the weather was dreadful. There was either torrential rain for weeks or there was no rain for weeks, and it just, destroyed everything. Apparently, the arable farm made a profit of £144. That's before government subsidies. So that's not a great hourly rate of pay. And you're talking of turnover in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it's a very finely balanced thing. But we know that Clarkson's life doesn't depend on it at all. So it doesn't really matter. But at the end, it does matter, and apparently there's going to be another series, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Anyway, that was my week. Hope you enjoyed listening to me witter on about it, and see you next week.